boycott.lovedreamingpeach.com.
Well, I'm watching. Let's see.
Outline everything in
I'm laying over here. I'm watching.
We have markers.
Luke Beasley.
Color it in.
Oh, that would be cool. That would be way better than their magic board for
You're
sure.
right. Like they do it all high tech.
Let's see.
You know, stuff doesn't for them. Like, no.
Yeah. That would be great.
All right. Here we go.
Here we go.
There will be, see their polls closed, and we'll begin counting the votes. Here is state of Texas. We were just talking about Donald Trump will win in the state of Texas when all the votes are counted. NBC News projects that Donald Trump will also win in North Dakota tonight. South Dakota, same story. That will also go into the Donald Trump column this evening. We move to the state of Wyoming in 3 electoral votes at stake. Donald Trump, the projected
This
winner
is not
in
looking good
Wyoming.
so
Here's
far.
The road at 270 now getting
Jesus,
interesting.
30
for Donald Trump,
to 154.
Kamala Harris.
That's insane.
All right, let's go to the uncalled races just from those 9 o'clock poll closings, including New York, Colorado, Minnesota. So we still await results there. But let's go to Michigan. That's the biggie at this hour. Polls closing in Michigan, and it is, wait for it, too early to call. We will be waiting for it perhaps into the wee hours tonight. Arizona also too early to call. 7 o'clock in the Mountain West, 9 o'clock on the East Coast. Polls just closed there. Let's go to Wisconsin, the other of the
Too early to
states,
call.
along with Michigan and Pennsylvania. Too early to call. Too early to call. Starting to see more vote come in, but we could be waiting a bit for that. And same with North Carolina. They're counting more quickly, but it's still too early for us to make a projection. And in Georgia, it's not too early. It's just too close. We are starting to see the vote come in. We've got 66% counted right now. And yet, despite the margin that you see there, we project not only what the margin is right now, but where we expect the vote to come in, whether it's coming from a Republican stronghold or a Democratic stronghold. So when you see that disparity and then you see us say it's too close to call, there's a method to that madness, Tom, and you've got Georgia up there.
And I'm going to explain the method to the madness, right? The difference right now, 220,000 votes. Trump on top with 66% of the vote in. But Republicans, it can't even get close to celebrating just yet. These sort of UFO objects we have circling Georgia right now, this is the remaining vote. And the bigger that bubble, that means the more vote that is out. And the more vote that is out right now is in the Atlanta metro region. Remember I told you guys earlier that about 50% of the vote is going to come from this area right here. The election is essentially won or lost in the Atlanta metro region because the margins are so close. Every vote matters, but because the margins are so close, Trump runs up that rural vote. The Democrats run up the urban vote. They run up the suburban counties around Atlanta as well. Let's take a look. Let's see how Atlanta and the surrounding counties are looking, the ring counties. Cobb County, 77% of the vote is in. Harris slightly overperforming where Biden was in 2020. Let's go over to Fulton County. This is where Atlanta is. A huge county for Democrats here. She's about where Biden was, 72% of the vote in. She can catch up and bring that up. Gwinnett County, again, these are the counties that Clinton flipped in 2016, and they just got bluer and bluer. And here, Douglas, 84%
All right, so I'm just watching. I guess I'm going to be up
We'll come a little further out,
for a long time,
kind of move a little out the suburbs, the
or I'll go to
exurbs, if you
sleep
will.
and find out in the morning.
Almost always picks the
Now
winner
it's 10
of the
o'clock.
election here. Let's move east now because I know we have a lot of
10 p.m.
All
right, I'm holding this by hand, so to that person who was like pissed that it was like moving, they were feeling seasick, sorry, I'm holding it by hand because I'm all the way across the room. It's looking like crap right now. I'm so disappointed at the moment.
79%. She's going to want to increase those numbers. Again, we're still waiting on a lot of the vote. It's still very early. Remember, some of these counties are going to report late. Monco, 28% in, 69% overperforming there. This is where Governor Shapiro is. You may remember that. She closed out her final ad sitting right next to Governor Shapiro, making sure the people of Pennsylvania saw that. And then I want to park on Bucks for a while. And I want you guys to talk a little bit about Bucks. 24% in, but this is the county, the ring county around Philadelphia, one of those collar counties that Republicans thought they could make some inroads here. More working class than some of those neighboring suburb areas, counties. They say Southern Bucks might be a little bit more Trump country. That may have changed this election. We're going to have to wait and see. But you can see here the numbers aren't as high as they were with 24% in, 56% of the vote. Trump's going to have to try to run up the vote a little bit here if he wants to do better. I'm going to look at one more area before I send it to you guys. Trump's
A
on
little
top, only
video.
about 17,000 votes. You remember the spread in 2020 was about 80,000 votes. So a lot of votes still out here. One thing I do want to mention, there was an exit poll out of Pennsylvania on Latino Trump in a major way. That could possibly be a deciding effect here in Pennsylvania because you're talking about 600,000 Latinos.
Grain of salt caveat. We know that these exit polls could shift a little bit. But here's what's so interesting here. It is Kamala Harris, of course, the vice president, who is winning the Latino vote over former President Trump, 53% to 45%. This is nationwide. But the number that you want to look at is this 45%. That is because of the overperformance of former President Trump nationally among the Latino vote. And you can see it here. He's 45% this year. 2020, I mean, this is a double-digit plus overperformance from where he was just 4 years ago. And if you get into some of these key battlegrounds, Tom mentioned Pennsylvania. We were just talking about Nevada, looking at my clock where the polls closed like 7 minutes ago. It is a similar story here. If we can pull up Nevada, you can see Latino voters, about 17% of the electorate there, broke for Kamala Harris, 48% to Trump, Donald Trump, 46%. But again, it's about the overperformance. He is doing better with this group than he did 4 years ago, again, by a double-digit margin over the course of 4 years. So as I walk back to the desk, I will tell you, this is something, and Chris and I know will back me up on this, as we've been talking to our sources around the Trump campaign. What did we hear again and again? If they thought they were going to overperform with Black and Latino voters, Latino men, an interesting and important story here tonight, guys.
I want to bring in someone from our insider's desk right now. Jim Messina was campaign manager for President Obama's re-election in 2012. Jim, what are you seeing here right now? What are and what are each of the sides telling themselves based on this data?
Yeah, it's a great question. So,
Yeah.
Tom just showed the most important two counties that I'm following in Pennsylvania. The early vote in Allegheny County, Pittsburgh, better for Harris than expected. Then you look at Bucks County. When I was Obama's campaign manager, I was obsessed with Bucks County. And so far, it's looking like very early numbers, but she's doing really, really well. We talked about the Latino vote. That is a very scary number for the Harris campaign. They're going to want to do better. But the thing around the exits that we haven't talked enough about is really the senior vote. Kamala Harris is doing better with white seniors in the exit polls and some of the early results than expected, and a little bit better than even Joe Biden. You'd rather have those much more high propensity voters and a lot of a bigger overall number with those seniors. So those are three things that I'm seeing very early that make her campaign pretty happy. But in general, Trump is running up numbers in rural better than he did in 2020, which has to concern the Harris campaign.
Out with 54% of the vote counted. In Colorado, they vote by mail, and those ballots get to be counted quite quickly. So we see that Kamala Harris will take Colorado, so we can fill out the map just a little bit more as we lay out the road to 270. But those big battleground states, we have yet to call.
Look at the
one
fucking
of the
numbers.
battleground states for Kamala Harris right now.
Sorry, I'm wobbling.
Those
I'm zoomed
three
in from all the way
industrial
across the
Midwest
room.
states,
This is
Pennsylvania,
terrifying.
Michigan,
Numbers,
Wisconsin,
it's
Donald
10
Trump,
p.m.
Florida with
Eastern
Georgia and North Carolina, and
Standard
perhaps Arizona
Time.
and Nevada. It'll be wild before we get results there. We've got
Luke
Garrett
Beasley
Hayes, who
and
is at Trump headquarters in West Palm. And Garrett, what's the mood there? What are you
Luke
hearing?
and Josiah.
Sven, I've been talking to Trump campaign officials, and look, we all know the cliche on election days where you hear campaign sources say they're feeling cautiously optimistic. What has happened in the last half hour is my sources have stopped using the word cautious to describe their optimism. They are feeling increasingly confident as more and more votes come in.
NBC News projects that Ted Cruz will retain his seat
Oh, fuck,
again
no.
in Texas. Democrats have
Oh,
taken
that's
some
so
big
terrible.
swings in recent years in Texas, but unable to land.
I really like Colin Allred.
Allred will come up short tonight in his
Oh,
bid to
fucking
unseat
A. That's
Ted
so
Cruz.
awful.
Because I mean, Texas is the white whale for Democrats.
Well, I'm trying to put this on a stand, so
Okay, yeah, so them officially calling it.
oh, that's awful.
Ted.
The least liked Republican
Wait,
senator.
what's
maybe
happening?
the least liked senator, period.
Yeah.
He gets another term.
Wow, it's
Yeah, that was
unbelievable.
disappointing.
Yeah. Fuck. I try not to, just so I don't.
Sorry, I'm trying to make it less wobbly.
Some of these are so hard to derive meaning from, but figuring out where people are
Finally got
fighting
on a
with their
stand.
state Democratic Party, but then not the national.
Win. And there's
So it took a while, but we finally got that
Yeah.
confirmation
That's
that
good.
Angela Also Brooks will be representing the Democrats in her state of Maryland in the United States Senate. Just wanted to say, super chat here. What's obvious so far, there hasn't been a big swing either way. And also, women coming out for Kamala hasn't happened. Disappointing. It'll go back to Kamala winning all this shows is the low moral compass of half Americans. Very worrying. I mean, listen.
True.
All this data is so just like it's,
How can this many
scattered
people
around
vote
right now, and
for
I'm
him?
experiencing an historic gender gap. Like she's benefiting
Just can't
from
believe
it. So we are seeing excellent performance by
that
women
he's gotten
in this
this many
country, at least
votes
from the data so far.
so far. I
It's just
still
that
believe that
Donald
she
Trump
has a
has
good
also
chance
increased
of
his
winning,
support
but
among men, right? And
they're
yes,
saying
there are
that
more
is it
women in
the
this country
red
than men.
mirage
Women
or
tend to vote
not?
more reliably
I
than
mean,
men, but it's not like 70-30.
we got like
you know
3
what I
more
mean?
hours of voting, and they
So
haven't even finished
we'll
counting
need to see
in the dense
if
Democratic
and where she is deficient
East Coast states.
with
So
other cohorts, and he has overperformed. So, significantly increased his support among Latinos, even after the Puerto Rico comments. I know that there was some like preliminary. It's also these aren't monoliths, right? So it's entirely possible that in certain states, Donald Trump, and exit polls show that Donald Trump has increased support among Latinos, but in the key areas like perhaps in, let's say, Pittsburgh or Philadelphia or whatever, that it's not enough to overcome her advantages either. So I guess what I'm saying is you can't necessarily project for either of them.
Right? People woke up on Sunday, and according to the Des Moines Register poll, Harris was up by 3 points within the margin of. But let's look at Polk County. This is the biggest county, the most people. This is Des Moines, the capital here. So she's on top, 55% to 43%, 94% of the
it says only
votes in.
55%.
But look at Trump's margins. Trump's actually doing better than he did in 2020. Let's go over here to another county, Dubuque County, 94% of the votes in. Trump's at 52. Trump was at 50. So he's growing in both those districts, in both those counties, I should say. For Democrats to flip Iowa, he has to be doing worse in those counties. Again, look, there's still a lot of vote out. A lot of vote has to come in. But this would be a shocker if Republicans lost Iowa. Remember, Trump won 98 of the 99 counties in the primary. And when you go back to elections past, he won by 8 points in 2020, and he won by 9 points in 2016. So my point here being that if the trend was Iowa was going to turn blue, she has to be turning out the votes in Des Moines and in other places, and right now that's not happening.
now I have it on the
We
thing.
actually have a call right now.
Oh,
And
another
Iowa
projection.
will go red, as was widely
Oh,
expected
no.
until that poll.
That was
Right there,
strange
Trump
timing.
wins the 6 electoral votes of Iowa, and so we can see the breakdown there with about half the vote counted there. So
Yeah, I didn't expect her to win Iowa, but
No.
I'm
But what's important is assuming that projection turns out to be the case, right? Which is what we're always assuming with any of these projections, either for Trump or against Trump. That's a major upset for the Seltzer poll, which is one of the most reputable in the country. Now, again, even Ann Seltzer herself, when she was interviewed about this, she's like, "Hey, I could be wrong." Just like Alan Lichtman said he could be right because I'm in power and you're not.
So, like, I
That's
know
an
there's
attitude, by the way,
racist,
the Democrats really
misogynistic,
struggle
xenophobes,
to really
but
embrace.
it can't be more than
So
50%.
she has
Can't.
taken some
It
risk,
cannot
and I
be more than
think,
50% of
you know, we
voters.
should have rewarded her, and hopefully will.
Even if she loses,
Rape
do you see like a
apologists as
major
well.
mistake?
What?
Some people might say she should have.
In 2020, right now, 47% of the vote.
earlier.
Yeah, again, all she needs to do is win
Yeah.
the blue wall.
Yeah.
If she wins Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and the blue dot in Nebraska, then it doesn't matter what's going on in all these other states.
Yeah.
Again, we could give them North Carolina and Georgia. So victory is very real here. Yeah, but this is a 8-hour stream, 9-hour stream. So yeah, we got to talk about the possibilities, and I want to apologize for that, and I hope you guys understand because this is a coin flip.
MAGA person.
No, so well, I mean, asterisk.
All right, maybe I'll do another one, or maybe I'll wait till.
Get lovedreamingpeach.com. 3 states too is you can tell yourself it's going to be really close and come down to the 3 states, the blue wall, a bunch of times. But then whenever you actually are confronted with that, instead of course, all of us had in our head, like, what if she sweeps all the swing states,
Yeah.
And we don't have to worry about that. So now it's coming down to what most people said it would, and that is a really stressful situation.
Yeah, it is. Like...
Indeed.
What?
Indeed.
Yeah, what? You're having all sorts of...
Underperforming. Not a population center, but if she wants to win North Carolina, she has to be doing better there.
Underperforming from what
I know you
Biden
were
did
asking about
last time
Virginia.
is what he meant.
Savannah, let's take a look at
She's
Virginia.
doing
We haven't
better.
called Virginia yet, and if we, just to give you context, the last 2 elections, it came kind of close to 2016, about 4 percentage points, 4 or 5 percentage points. In 2020, Biden grew that lead much more. It was about 10 points there. Tonight, here's where it's at. 77% of the votes in. There's about a 2% spread. I'm being told by our politics desk, a lot of the vote that is out is still in the Northern Virginia suburbs. This is the Democrats' sort of their sweet spot where they're
This
going to
is
drive
what
up the
they're
votes.
showing right now,
Also,
which
Richmond
is
County, a lot of
absolutely
African-American
insane.
voters there, too, that could possibly vote Democratic. But listen, Republicans have been making inroads in there as well. We can take a quick gander. How much time we have? About a minute? 2 minutes? Now we're going to say goodbye. We'll come back. We'll dig into those northern suburbs in just a minute, Savannah.
Slaughter on this. Also,
All right, just to show, it's Tuesday, November 5th at 10:58 p.m.
I mean, California got it at 11. Pause just a moment. We've got a lot more to get to. Top of the hour, we're going to have the big poll closings in California. Got it at election alert. Poll closing in about 20 seconds are now. So.
Project that Kamala Harris will win in the state of California.
54. All right, here we go. Something's happening. Something's cooking. Oh, poop on a rapist. Disgusto. All right, let's see.
In the road to 270,
Oh,
Donald Trump at 213,
okay.
Harris now with 145. Things certainly becoming a little more interesting as the evening progresses.
Okay, for the 11 o'clock poll closings, we have a couple of uncalled races, Oregon and Wisconsin. We just called California. Now let's go to our battlegrounds. Pennsylvania, too close to call.
Yes, we
11
know.
o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock
my
in the
God.
West. Same story in Michigan, too close to call at this hour, with about a third of the vote counted there. In Wisconsin, it is too close to call. You knew it would be a tight election. The polls all showed it, and that's certainly being borne out tonight. 60% of the vote in there. In Georgia, it is too close to call. Getting closer to that final number there, but we're still, the margins are just too close to make a call in that presidential race. Same thing in North Carolina.
I wish we were getting more information on which votes they counted when, because I remember in 2020, since the mail-in ballot thing was a big part of the discussion, they specified more often that this particular state counts, early votes first, and then those are expected to go more in this person's direction. Because what could be happening here too, if absentee mail-ins still are
over to my
breaking
desk
towards
for a bit.
Harris, then in certain places
I was
those
over there.
start getting counted like on election day.
All right,
or
I'm gonna
something,
pause and
those
come
start
back
getting
for another
tallied
update in a bit. It's
later
11:02.
mid-election. Gets me. Gets
Let's
me.
see.
Gets me. You been keeping up with college football?
So I don't watch football. So my girlfriend is a big football fan.
We're getting there.
I watch the Charlotte Hornets basketball. Adopted them. By the way, it's torture. It's also like watching this election at the moment. We're not a very good team, unfortunately, but I love Charlotte, and so yeah, it's part of the culture.
All right, so apparently it hasn't been called yet for Texas U.S. Senate. I'm really wanting Colin Allred to win. It says he's got 44%, Ted Cruz at 53.9%, but 74% reporting, so there's still a chance. All right, and I'm watching these guys. Let's see what time it is. All right, I'll be back.
Is quite a moment because barring any unforeseen circumstances, it
Ohio
appears
Senate.
that Republicans with that victory
Fucking
will
A.
take control of the United States Senate. Again,
shit.
it's not an official projection at that moment, but if things happen as expected, it would look like a two-seat gain here in the Senate. And so this is a hugely consequential vote here. Sheriff.
That's not good.
No, that's not good. It's not good, friends.
So it looks like we've lost the Senate.
Looks like it. Yeah. West Virginia. And yeah, this. So I mean, which now it's just
Every once in a while, just show them one that comes to mind is that a Republican Senate, and yeah, you can show that every once in a while, just show them what's going on. A Republican Senate means there's no chance we're going to enshrine reproductive rights into law.
yeah. So let's talk about this. Let's say the coin flip lands in our favor for the
This is
presidency.
just
Let's just like run through all the
panic
permutations. They have the
first,
Senate. So if we have Vice
like
President
a
Harris
rash. It's
becoming
just a
President, Vice,
rash.
and then
But the
President,
true blue is
the
going to come
Senate,
out.
I mean, both chambers, you need to pass legislation.
Trump campaign tonight. Donald Trump is across the Intercoastal Waterway at this hour at Mar-a-Lago, his home and private club, where for a portion of the night he was doing, I think, what many people sort of imagine candidates do on election night, meeting with at some point this evening, according to multiple sources who are there and have laid eyes on him, he has transitioned into essentially party mode already. Down in the ballroom at Mar-a-Lago, shaking hands, thanking supporters, participating in the celebration that has begun among his closest supporters, his family and friends, despite a race that remains unfollowed. Also told he might make the trip across
into this evening. They expect nothing will be determined until late into the night, and certainly they say they're going to be at this again tomorrow. But as she notes in this memo again, she says that they have always said that the clearest path to 270 electoral votes lies through the blue wall states. And here's what she says specifically about
Milwaukee, Philadelphia, and Detroit. And if they are what we think they are, then she has a very clear, albeit narrow, but clear path to the next president of the United States.
Happened with specifically drawing conclusions based on the exits and trying to figure out what happened with specific demographics. I think where we're at is this was always going to be close. It is close right now. I think there was some hope based on vibes that perhaps this wouldn't be as close based on some late polling and some late momentum and a terrible event at Madison Square Garden. Could we hope that maybe this night wouldn't be as long? And the answer is no. The polls largely were showing a very tight race, and that's what we're kind of living through.
Dan, do you think it will ultimately come down to Pennsylvania? I mean, that certainly has been what's been telegraphed for all of these months.
It is the essential state, because if Georgia and North Carolina, she does not win, and there's still a lot of outstanding vote in Georgia. It's once again a narrow path. But if those do not end up in her column, there is no math without Pennsylvania. You can replace Michigan with Arizona in our column. There is no math without Pennsylvania. You can replace Wisconsin with Arizona. You can replace Michigan with Arizona and Wisconsin, but you need Pennsylvania, and so it will come down to Pennsylvania.
Left to go. Here's where we stand right now on the House.
I'm actually getting a stomach ache.
No clear majority. We need 218 for a majority, and right now, no clear winner in the House in terms of these races so far. Heading back over from earlier, we're waiting to see what happens in a raft of swing states, including...
It's 11:32 p.m. This is like, this is not what I was expecting, to be honest. I was so sure that there was no way that he would come close to winning. I never expected it to go like this, and now my stomach is actually getting in knots. Because I can't imagine if he would win what would happen. Well, I can't imagine, which is why I'm so terrified. And stomach in knots. So this is what Brian Tyler Cohen is showing right now.
The presidential elections.
Pennsylvania's not looking great, but this is good news.
View here, I believe that soon we will see Washington called. There it is. Washington has been called.
A little bit closer.
Now it is 189 to 246. I do want to note that the AP has not called Georgia.
Well, I'm actually nervous for real now at this point. This is pretty terrifying that this many people would vote for him, but I'll be back. I think I'm not done watching.
In the state of Virginia, this call coming a little later than many people might have expected, but
thank
Kamala
God.
Harris will win the third.
Get lovedreamingpeach.com.
This is my mood right now. Oh, I was expecting to be a lot happier than this. I'm just baffled.
What do you mean?
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Because they picked up.
I don't think so.
What do you mean?
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Sorry. What
Because
time is it now?
they picked up West Virginia. That's been confirmed. They picked up Ohio. That's been confirmed.
to 270.
Okay,
And we will wait a few moments and let some other stations
185 Harris to 230 Trump. That's what they're predicting so far at 11:53 p.m. Oy.
That is where the map stands at this hour, about 10 minutes till.
Probably should have this a
This
while ago.
other
Let me read some of what all the
prediction
predictions
is
say. Okay.
a bit higher for
Sending to
Trump
you
because they're predicting
right.
Georgia.
So we have this idea in the United States, and it's also based on law. It's called posse comitatus, and essentially what it means is the military is not meant to be used for law enforcement purposes. It has a very specific purview, really, to defend the country against
The military is not meant to be
foreign
used for
threats,
law
right?
enforcement.
Domestic law enforcement purpose is supposed to be handled by law enforcement, right? Because historically speaking, when the military has been used for law enforcement purposes, it lends itself well to coups and juntas and, military control of the country. So the United States want to keep those two things. Their green beans and their mashed potatoes separate. Well, the Insurrection Act basically allows the president to sidestep that and say, okay, under extraordinary, circumstances, the president's commander-in-chief can deploy the military against American citizens for law enforcement purposes. The thing is, the president doesn't need permission from Congress to activate it. He doesn't need permission from the courts. And legal experts at like the Brennan Institute, for example, have said that the Supreme Court, that basically it's non-justiciable, that the courts really can't intervene. It's really discretionary to the president. And again, it goes back to so much of our system.
My 12-year-old was just giving me a pep talk because I'm feeling like, ooh. It's midnight now.
Oh, well, it's really, what are you saying? That
The roads and bridges were
60%? Yeah.
In the exit now and is ready to celebrate. And I'll just say, anecdotally, it is a younger crowd. It is a younger crowd than other election nights I've covered, other Republican events that I've covered. And I think it reflects something that we've seen in the exit polls, this so-called shift of the bro vote in particular towards Donald Trump, the young
Stupid
man
mofo
who he has put
bro.
so central in this campaign.
Gross ass.
I think about the fact that just today when he was voting, he was asked
Disgusting.
by
I'm so
another reporter about what he
disappointed
thought
in
one
this
of the most
country.
important moments of his campaign was, and he mentioned Joe Rogan, the podcaster, and the fact that he did that
Joe
podcast
Rogan.
interview, and then subsequently got Rogan's endorsement, which he made it.
Don't you love the most influential people in politics are the ones who publicly admit they know nothing about politics? Joe Rogan says, I'm an idiot, I don't know anything, don't trust me. And then those are the people that have the most influence.
Taking place at a hotel, they chanting music. They muted the TV and blasted some music so they could sort of lift the spirits of some of the folks here this evening. I'll tell you, based on an attendee who was at one of the Harris events taking place at a hotel not far from here, the situation there, the scene was described as that of a funeral right now. Now, that doesn't mean this thing is over, but it does give you a sense of the way people are feeling right now. I was with Kamala Harris just yesterday as she was traveling through Pennsylvania at that late night event. Actually, it was just 24 hours ago. And she was with Lady Gaga, Ricky Martin, Oprah Winfrey, and she
that was
said
amazing.
to the tens of thousands gathered that momentum is on our side, but clearly there was a different message being communicated now in the form of that document that was obtained by NBC News. The statement sent by the campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillon, saying basically that we always knew this race was going to be tight, and increasingly it appears that they believe the blue wall states are their best.
Yeah, so that's the same story over and over.
Yeah. So
I think maybe we wind down.
Yeah. So, listen, blue wall is still a possibility. It's just that possibility is shrinking a lot. Okay. It doesn't seem like things are going to be called today. It seems like it'll probably be tomorrow. Well, I mean, we're already in the next day anyway. It's technically Wednesday here.
How we
Ben
truly
Marsalis.
feel in the moment. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to say, oh, we're in a great position. It's looking really good right now at the end. When the data has shifted to where it is now, and there appears to be a lot of support and late breaking support too for Trump. I mean, and for the things that he did.
The terrible
because
things.
of the stuff that looks to us as things that would shock the conscience of a moral society that seems to appeal to people in this country. So I think you have to recognize that that's a reality. And to the broader point is, if she does prevail, and I think you have to look at it like it's the ninth inning. You're down by a ton. Could you still win? Sure, but you're in the ninth inning. I still think the hard part is to reflect on directionally the country when you see the Madison Square Garden nastiness, when you see all of those things that are out there, liable for sexual assault, felony after felony. When you see all of those things,
and he's getting voted in,
you still vote for it. In the numbers that we're seeing right now, almost regardless of who wins,
it's so
if
disappointing.
At your core, just that reality doesn't kind of sadden you as a human being. It saddens me that there are people who see those things and vote for that. And he's a great guy. And again, even the fact that you're talking about someone who says Epstein is a great guy, someone who says grabbing women by their genitals. I mean, what are we doing? What are we talking about? So the fact that there's still a huge amount of support for that, in contrast to Brett, all of the data points you talk about, strongest economy in the world, our alliances have never been stronger, a manufacturing boom, inflation under control caused by the $8 trillion in debt that Donald Trump caused.
Okay, AP News has it 210 for Kamala, 230 for Trump, and it's 12:25 so far a.m. So Luke closed up, and the Midas Touch is closing up. Brian Taylor Cohen is still going.
Prepared to draw complete conclusions from this, but I think it's safe to say, right? We've seen enough evidence that there was a significant shift among Latinos. I attribute that to several things. I think that you were talking about divides earlier, right? There's this in this Trump era, the rural-urban divide, also around educational background. I think that's true in the Latino community too. If you notice, particularly in these places.
NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win in Georgia when all the votes are counted. There's the breakdown right now, 118,000 vote margin. But again, Donald Trump, the projected winner. This is a big call here on a night in which we've waited quite some time for some of these important battleground calls. Here's what the road to 270 looks like. Donald Trump drawing closer now to that magic number. He's at 246, Harris at 189.
Well, this means it's boo wall or bust for Kamala Harris. It's Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, or there is no path to 270 for her. So we'll continue to keep an eye on this as we await results.
A royal flush.
Say that what?
Run the tape. It seems like a royal flush or a full house.
Wow.
Oh,
51. This is also interesting. 51 Republican in the Senate.
I see that
right now.
This is really
41 Democrat.
bad.
1 seat majority so far.
Man.
Electoral or the electrical votes, as somebody said. The electrical votes.
How can this be happening in 2024?
We're gonna keep watching it for as long as we can, for as long as I can fathom.
Oh my God!
But let's see here. Senate, Republican control. Bang. Like I said, for as long as I can fathom. But let's see here. Senate, Republican control. Bang. Like I said, if it ends up being like by a landslide all Republican, and then you got a Republican as the president, and the Senate all Republican, oh my dear God, that's gonna be insane. That's gonna be insane. The things will be able to pass.
Oh, this is a nightmare.
Department of Education, goodbye.
Department of Education, goodbye.
Wow. Okay. Let's.
Mike
This
Lawler,
is so damn depressing.
We will wait for those votes
Can't
to be
believe this.
counted. That is
Morning after the election, and we lost. Democrats lost. Kamala Harris lost. Donald Trump won. Racism, misogyny, and xenophobia has won. Hate has won. Hatred has won. Going to my car. I think I left my coffee in here. Nope. It's not in here. What did I do with it? I'm just like, the sun is shining. Another day. The earth is still revolving. Peter Trigos and Emily D. Baker are still talking about cases like Karen Reed, and school is on. My son decided he couldn't go. He woke up saying he was sick. And I was like, well, I feel sick too. And he said, my stomach hurts. I think I'm going to throw up. I said, me too. I made him get dressed. Wait, why the fuck are my bins moved? What the fuck? Why did they move my bins? My recycling bins. Somebody moved them. What on earth? I'm just getting distracted by the fact that somebody fucking put their hands on my shit. Of course, I don't own this house, and the house is for sale. And it probably was the landlord or something. But anyway, what the fuck? I'm just so beyond, like, heartbroken. Like, I'm heartbroken. Let me see if I can put this here. Like, how? How can there be this much hate in the world? How can there be this much misogyny? How can there be this much xenophobia? There's some people that are happy today. A lot of people, I guess, not where I live. I live in a blue state. It just seems eerily quiet. All the YouTube people I've been following for the past 5 months, who've been putting out videos every day, every morning, every hour, mostly silent. It feels like a funeral, like they said last night. Somebody said it feels like a funeral at Harris's campaign, because it is. Something died in this election. A lot of hope died. A lot of joy died. A lot of unity between all kinds of people has died. A lot of joy for a future that we can all look forward to. Shriveled up like an old raisin. And this old racist, misogynist, xenophobic rapist has been voted in. And honestly, I kept feeling last night and even now, like, there's no way he actually did this. There's no way he didn't cheat. There's no way this many people actually voted for him. He had to have cheated. He had to have rigged it. He had to have done something not legit, because this can't be real. But then, you know, I'm not going to turn into a MAGA cult-like person who refuses to accept that he did win. My candidate lost. The person I voted for lost. The person I had hoped for lost. The policies I was looking forward to dashed. But we have to keep moving forward. We have to keep working towards that better, brighter future where everyone of all kinds get to thrive. So I let my kid come home. My older son went to school. My younger son was like, I can't. I said, fine. Come home. We gotta keep on keeping on. We gotta not let them bring us down. We gotta believe that there's hope even when hope seems to have died. All right. Very, very heartbreaking, very depressing, very sad, very sobering, and terrifying. Well, we'll see what's gonna happen next. I seriously can't find my coffee bottle and I'm late. I think I'm just as upset about not finding my coffee bottle as I know. Okay. The light of a new day. I know I just said a lot of really depressing stuff and I kind of want to, try to find something positive to say. Found a brush under the seat. This is insane. I can't find the coffee, but look, I found a million fucking water bottles my son has been putting under the seat. I didn't find it. Well, what can I say positive? Hold on to your loved ones. Keep believing. Somehow we will overcome. It feels really, really empty to say, oh, hang in there. And so many people voted against our interests. They didn't even vote in their own interests because honestly, this isn't good for most people. Not at all. Now I just need to figure out where the hell my coffee bottle went. And try to gather up some positive feelings. Well, I found my fucking coffee, at least there's that. I had left it in the bedroom when we got back and my son was getting back in the bed. Although he's out of bed now because he's like, I can't sleep, I can't rest. And I do believe that he's actually upset about this all and that's why he feels ill. And here's the numbers. Can't believe it. Unbelievable. Tragic.
Get lovedreamingpeach.com.
I don't have anything else to say, but I guess I do. Getting messages from my family members about how shocked, devastated, we are living in a nightmare. I am beyond sick. How can white women be that stupid? I said, how can anyone? My sister-in-law, right, but they have the biggest percentage of votes, rights being stripped, and they go vote for that POS, never could count on the white man, but the women. And then my brother said, the conspiracy theories have started. 20 million less Dem voters than 2020 isn't sitting right with people. Trump had 15 million less votes than last time as well. And I said, I feel like, how is this really possible? But then, MAGA not believing it's real was insane. So, and it's kind of like, I just feel so sick. I just feel so sick that many people could have voted for him. 1,000,000%, I think the people willing to bring fake electors and overthrow the government would absolutely try to cheat to win an election. I agree with that. I agree. I think that they learned a lot of lessons from what went wrong when they tried to steal it before. The proof is in the pudding. Burned ballot boxes, bomb threats, signatures not matching. I feel like there had to be cheating going on, absolutely. They only got better at it. And let me see, what were those numbers again? Let's see what they're saying here.
After election night, if the result is not contested, there are two key moments before a president is officially sworn in. In December, the electors from each state meet to formally cast their votes for president and vice president. Now remember, Americans are not directly voting for the president, they're actually voting for a group of 538 people called electors who make up the Electoral College. And electors vote for the president on behalf of the state they represent. In January, Congress gathers to count and certify those electoral votes, officially confirming the winner. Now, through all of this time, the new winning candidate is getting their plans ready for government, the transition period. Finally, the president is sworn into office in the inauguration ceremony. It's almost always held on the 20th of January on the steps of the Capitol building.
Well, his running mate, J.D. Vance, spoke after Mr. Trump declared victory.
Oh, no.
Well, Mr. President, I appreciate you allowing me to join you on this incredible journey. I thank you for the trust that you placed in me. And I think that we just witnessed the greatest political comeback in the history of the United States of America. And under President Trump's leadership, we're never going to stop fighting for you, for your dreams, for the future of your children. And after the greatest political comeback in American history, we're going to lead the greatest economic comeback in American history under Donald Trump's leadership.
Wins the U.S. presidential election, saying his second term in office will be a new golden age for America.
This is a magnificent victory for the American people that will allow us to make America great again.
Jubilant supporters celebrate. Trump will be only the second person in history to serve as president for 2 non-consecutive terms. It was a crushing night for Kamala Harris and her supporters, who left her campaign headquarters in Washington after the party was cancelled.
Over the next few hours, we'll hear from voters, we'll talk to Democrats and Republicans, and we'll show you how Donald Trump got to the White House. And Republicans, are they going to win a clean sweep with control of the Senate and the House?
Depressing. You failed us, B. You failed us. So apparently there's like 161 million registered voters, like 137 million voted or something.
Observatory, the vice president's residence, which, according to both of you, we are outside the Naval Observatory, the vice president's residence, which, if this continues as it appears projected by NBC News, will soon become the home of J.D. Vance. Last night was quite a dramatic scene as we were at Howard University. Kamala Harris's alma mater there. It started as a night filled with joy and optimism, but quickly that evaporated as the returns started coming in, and it was obvious that the trajectory was not in her favor there. Many people ultimately becoming quite silent, watching the returns come in late in the evening as they were hearing one victory for Donald Trump after another. You heard a chant from some in the crowd there saying, "Music, music," and the DJ ultimately muted the giant television screen there, turning on music instead, as if to sort of boost the mood of the crowd as they waited to hear from Kamala Harris, as we just heard from Garrett. Ultimately, she did not speak last night. Instead, we heard from a campaign co-chair saying that she would address her supporters and the country from Howard University at some point later today. At the end of the day, though, this is going to be a major reckoning for Democrats to sort out exactly what happened here. Certainly, Kamala Harris faced some significant headwinds. Exit polls now showing that about 2/3 of Americans say they were either dissatisfied or angry with the state of the country, effectively saying that the country was headed in the wrong direction. How much of this is the responsibility of President Biden himself? The sense that the policies he pursued were not good enough and did not help satisfy some of the real economic concerns that a lot of Americans so far for the Democrats. But it's not just Kamala Harris who's going to have to answer these questions, but Democrats up and down the ticket, with the Senate now becoming strongly Republican. Among the things we're going to keep close eyes on over the course of the day, I will tell you, just pulling back the curtain a little bit, there was a big donor event, Hoda and Craig, that took place at a glitzy hotel not far. Over the course of the day, I will tell you, just pulling back the curtain a little bit, there was a big donor event, Hoda and Craig, that took place at a glitzy hotel not far from where Kamala Harris was expected to speak. We were told by a Democrat in attendance there that the room was, in this person's words, like a funeral, that the situation was, in their words, not good. There was a release, a statement to the staff from the one of the campaign chairs, the chair of the campaign, Jen O'Malley Dillon. She said, among other things, that they always knew that the blue wall states would be their clearest path to victory, and at least as of last night, they liked what they were seeing clearly when they're not going to like what they see. It's obvious what they were seeing clearly when they wake up this morning. They're not going to like what they see. It's obvious that Kamala Harris will be defeated ultimately by Donald Trump in this year's election.
It's 10:10 a.m. November 6th, Wednesday, 2024, and all of the people that I follow, Robert Wright, Jack Cocherella, Michael Cohen, Legal AF, Keith Edwards, Midas Touch, Adam Mockler, The Bulwark, Brian Taylor Cohen, Don Lemon, Luke Beasley. Nobody's put out a video. Luke Beasley put out one last night acknowledging that Trump lost and saying some hopeful words, but it's like, wow. I get it. Everybody's exhausted. Everybody's probably depressed and defeated, and soon they'll be back at it, back at work. And, you know, I guess the work has only just begun, trying to figure out how we can overcome this in the best way for everybody. It does terrify me, the idea that the people who are okay with this now will feel that they have justification and validation, and people will be more hateful. Somebody just left some disgusting, gross comment on my page, and I was like, what does that even mean? And I clicked on his thing real fast, and I was like, oh, he's a total racist misogynist. And it's terrifying that those people now are emboldened, now are going to be able to do a lot worse. And Trump wants to give police immunity to do horrific things. And it's really, really scary. And I hope somehow, some way, that the law and the people in charge today will somehow be able to make this not happen. I don't know. I know that sounds like election interference, but like, this cannot be. This can't.
I've tried starting this video about 5 different times now, and I don't know what I want to say, but I think it's important for me to be there for you right now, because we've been through this crazy summer together. And I think what I really just want to say is, I'm just really sorry. And, you know, losing sucks normally, but losing to him, knowing what this all means, is terrifying. So I do know that this is not the end of, this is not the end of the fight. This is not the end of the fight. This is, as I've always said, this is a generational fight we are in. And that doesn't change. Whether he won or not, that would not have changed because there is a fascist movement in our country. It is now that the leader of that fascist movement has regained power, and that is terrifying. But it is more important now than ever to resist it. I think moving forward on this channel, I am going to try to find ways.
This says more about, I believe, about our fellow Americans. And you also have to like not cede your power to that sort of thing. This says more about, I believe, about our fellow Americans than it does about Donald Trump and the MAGA folks. This is who we are. I'm just going to be honest with you today. People say, the Republican Party, we'll start with the Republican Party. The Republican Party is not that. We're not a bunch of bigots. We're not racist. We're not sexist. We're not homophobic. We're not that. And it's not true. That the Republican Party is MAGA. And a lot of what happened is, sure, of course, the economy, people are concerned about that. A lot of misinformation about a lot of things, the economy and on and on. Prices are up, but the rest of the economy is doing pretty well, but people aren't feeling it. So you have to respect that, whether it's real or not, okay? But the other thing is that there is a lot of isms and obias and whatever that's part of it as well. I tend to think that there are demographics that are just not comfortable with a woman in power, as we saw with Hillary Clinton, who I believe was the most qualified person to run for president in modern history. And excuse me. So I believe that there's that. That's not all of it. And I believe, obviously, I know that there's racism in the country. I know that there's sexism and misogyny. And so I think that did play into it. But also what we've learned on the road is that everyone lives sort of in a silo, in a bubble, right? So if you're in a big city center where most of the country, the largest population is, the most folks, you're kind of in a place where you're doing okay. There's more diversity. You're used to being around different people, and on and on and on. And things don't seem as bleak as they are if you're in a small town. Maybe it was a steel town. Maybe it was a coal town. Maybe it was, the retail in your town is dried up, or all kinds of things because of the economy. You feel it more. And you hear about the big cities, right? That, oh, they're crime infested and it's just a hellhole and all of that. None of that is true about the cities. Okay. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's also, if you will, folks who are getting, getting their information from, quite frankly, from social media, from YouTube, from streamers, from influencers, from podcasters or whatever, who don't have to deal with truth. So, and facts. It's just sort of a narrative that you want to set, and they want to set, and they do it. And that's why people want Donald Trump to be president. They want fewer regulations on social media and all of these streaming media sites. Those who don't own the big corporate media, what they're doing is they're buying social media sites, and they're setting a conservative narrative for the country that many, especially young people, young men, are buying into.
But of course, it's extra scary when you lose to a candidate that built his career off of breaking every single unspoken silent norm in America. But with that being said, America is a democracy. We do have power that people in other countries do not have. We can still mobilize. We can still build a community, even years from now. We can still build a community even over the next few years. We can come out stronger. So I want to take this video to talk about what the Democratic Party could look like 4 years from now, because the Democratic Party will look radically different. I want to talk about where the Democrats went wrong this election cycle, what we need to fix, and I want to talk about the potential implications of a second Trump term. I also want to talk about the future of my content. I think with some slight changes, we can really prove ourselves as a pro-democracy community that helps put this country back on track. But let's start off with the big one. Donald Trump won last night, and it wasn't completely unexpected. Most prediction models showed a 50-50 race, and this was me literally 2 weeks ago. But intuitively, I feel like, first of all, the polling numbers are good for Kamala, but we're like one or two percentage error away from a Trump victory.
Resistance, not exile. Opposition, not exile. And the proper use of the federal courts, yes, federal courts and attorney generals around the country to restrain unbridled, unchecked power by Donald Trump and MAGA, who swept to power on the other side of Tuesday. I'm Michael Popak. You're on the new Legal AF YouTube channel. We built this for a reason. I'm going to outline for you the path forward as free-thinking people in this community who are now in resistance to Donald Trump and the hard lurch to the right and to the red by the American electorate demonstrated last night, and how we rebuild and recover using the court system. I sit at the intersection of law and politics, and let me break it down to you. Sure, we're all shocked and surprised that Kamala Harris, in just 2.5 months of being the candidate, couldn't overcome Donald Trump and MAGA, who spent the last 4 years in exile rebuilding their tools and their weapons to try to reclaim power, to make this a culture war instead of one around the economy and the dignity of women and the dignity of immigrants. It became a culture war instead, and we lost it. That doesn't mean we're lost. It means now we're in opposition. We're in the party of resistance. Here's how the court systems are going to play a role. Let's set aside for a minute the criminal prosecutions from Donald Trump. Half of them are now dead. Right? Federal prosecutions of Donald Trump are now dead. They leave in their wake some terrible United States Supreme Court decisions about immunity. We'll leave that for another hot take. State prosecutions still alive. In fact, Donald Trump is going to be sentenced to something at some point on the 26th of November. Likely have his sentence stayed until after he gets out in 4 years. But we have that going on with Judge Merchan in New York. But we have to take a page out of the Republican book of going after favorable federal district courts located in favorable states up to favorable circuits to flood the zone, bring constant lawsuits, weekly lawsuits if you have to, as the party in resistance. There are remaining states, federal districts, that are favorable to progressives and Democrats, and we have to use them.
The Michael Cohen Show, on our journey, still remaining to the 250,000 subscribers. Now, look, my friends, welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show, on our journey, still remaining to the 250,000 subscribers. Now, look, my friends, I want you, everybody, right now, take a breath. Stop, slow down. Everyone's minds are racing. First, I want to begin by saying this channel, The Michael Cohen Show, as well as my Mea Culpa podcast and Political Beatdown, we are not, and I want to say this again because it's important, we are not an anti-Trump channel, okay? What we do is we call out exactly what's going on and we opine on it, very much like what you see everywhere else. The only difference is I come with a real history, with real knowledge, and a real former relationship to the man who just won the presidential election, whether you like it or you don't. And I want to say that our president, because supporting our president will be positive for is absurd. We have failed the country, whether we like them or we don't. We may have differences of, again, when hopefully Stephen Miller ends up writing this, and I don't think he should be the one to write it. It needs to be very, very different than what the inauguration that I was at in 2017. We are one country. We are one people. We may have differences of opinions, whether it come to abortion, climate change, safe gun control, whether it come to migration, immigration, etc. We may have differences of opinion, but nobody should want to see the country burn down because Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are going to be our president and vice president. And there's a certain amount of respect that we do still have to show them as the leaders of our country, whether we like them or we don't, whether we agree with their positions or we don't. They, by the will of the people, have been given the opportunity to put their platform out front. Now, there's so many things in his policies that I absolutely disagree with, including this stance on abortion, including the propositions across the country that failed, that still now require abortion before 6 weeks. This, to me, is absurd. We have failed. We, the voters, America has failed the women of our country. I actually thought that more women would understand that, and more people of color, more of the communities of color would have understood this, but they didn't. And so the decision has been made. My hope again, lastly, is that what Trump said is that he's going to turn our country around. And I hope that the way that he chooses to turn the country around with J.D. Vance will be positive for everyone, not just...
I won't try to hide it. I'm heartbroken. Heartbroken and scared, to tell you the truth. I still have faith in America. I know we can do a lot to resist Trump's worst plans. But right now, that's little comfort to the people who are most at risk. Today, millions must now live in fear of being swept up by Trump's cruel mass deportation plan. Documented immigrants, as well as undocumented, and millions of American citizens with undocumented parents or spouses. More Americans now must fear that they'll be forced to give birth or be denied life-saving care during an ectopic pregnancy or miscarriage. Today,
At lovedreamingpeach.com,